Looking to give your wardrobe an upgrade? Well, look no further. Here at God Country & Kin, we've got you covered from head to toe, from shoulder to shoulder, and everything in between. Introducing our brand new Patriotic Collection, designed to display your patriotic spirit with a stylish look that's sure to turn heads. And the best part is, you don't have to break the bank to be your best you. Why wait? Visit us online or in-store today and elevate your style with God Country & Kin. God Country & Kin, where patriotism meets style. Shop now. Visit the Patriot TV store and look for the God Country Kin banner to find the perfect outfit, shirt, accessory, or maybe a great hat. You can totally see yourself rocking this hat. I know you can. And check out all the great stuff we've got to show your patriotism at patriot.tv.store. Click that link above that says store and join me there at the Patriot TV store.
All right, freedom fighters, welcome back to the Hannah Faulkner Show. Thank you all so much for tuning in with us today. I am so excited for you guys to see this episode. We had Carley, who is a college student from one of the most woke universities in the state of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State University, who actually wrote a hit piece on me after I did the Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally, claiming I was a homophobic, transphobic, bigot, among a slew of other things. When I was 15, by the way, I've got to note that I was 15 years old and a university was slamming me as a 15-year-old young girl just saying that kids my age should not be cutting off their healthy breasts and genitals. Actually, frankly, nobody should be cutting off their healthy breasts and genitals. But regardless, I'm a quote-unquote homophobic, racist bigot, which is so interesting when I'm just simply saying people should not be cutting off their healthy breasts and genitals because it denies science, nature, reality, and just plain common sense. But regardless, we had Carley. She is a college student at MTSU, and she had an issue at Middle Tennessee State University a couple weeks ago where the faculty at the Student Union Board were showing favoritism to other tables and were silencing Turning Point USA's table that they had set up on their university, saying that they did not have a reservation when ironically, every single table that was there, I think there were like 5 to 10 others, also did not have a reservation, but were not shut down. Only Turning Point's table was shut down. So obviously, you know that they're showing favoritism. They're showing and revealing that, conservative students really are silenced on college campuses across the country. This is not just a unique story. This is happening every single day across the country to conservative students. And a lot of times to students within Turning Point USA chapters. I'm very proud of what Turning Point USA is doing. I started a chapter myself, actually, when I was 13. That was kind of my entryway into the political world. So I'm very grateful for what Turning Point USA is doing, Charlie Kirk, and the work they're doing across the country to turn our country around. But actually, at the end of this, I have a video. Make sure you guys stay all the way to the end because I went to MTSU back last month and asked questions to all of the, or several of the tables that were set up for their club day. I talked to the Young Socialist of America. We had a pretty interesting conversation with him. I talked to one of the Methodist groups, and I even talked to the conservative students to get their take on what's going on. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's go. Well, Carley, thank you so much for coming on this show. You have had a pretty interesting experience at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University recently as you're part of the Turning Point USA chapter there, which frankly, MTSU is one of the most woke college campuses in the state of Tennessee. I mean, even across the country, there's a lot of woke universities, but MTSU is pretty woke, just to say the least. I've had conversations with many of the students there. So finding conservatives on MTSU's campus is pretty few and far between. But you're a conservative college student, at MTSU. Would you share a little bit about your story, your interaction, and what happened a couple weeks ago at MTSU's campus?
Yeah, so I'm a junior at Middle Tennessee State University. I'm studying marketing, and I joined Turning Point back in October. and I became vice chair this past January. So it's been an amazing opportunity, and I just love the organization. And I did a little bit of Turning Point USA activities at my last college at Southern Utah. So it's really cool to see it across the country. But yeah, so a little bit about what happened on campus the other week. So on March 14th, we were tabling, and we table every Thursday. It was me, our secretary Jackson, and our Turning Point USA field rep Blake McBay. And we were just tabling for, ironically, free speech. And we were just about to pack up. We'd been tabling for about 2 hours, and a student union employee approached us and said that her manager sent her out there to tell us to pack up and leave. And I was confused because I've never been told that personally. And I know they've had instances in the past where our members have been told to remove themselves from campus, but it's a public university, so we have the right to be there. And so I was like, okay, can we move to the opposite side of the lawn? I wasn't sure if we needed a reservation for the lawn that we were on, the commons. So I was like, okay, let's move to our original spot. We just moved today because it was windy. That's what I told her. She said, okay, let me go talk to my manager. So she goes back into the student union. She comes back out and says, yeah, you guys don't have a reservation. No, you cannot move to the other side. You can't, you have to reserve any spot on campus at all, and you got to leave. So it was mind blowing. And I was like, okay, since I'm so new to this, I didn't want to be like ignorant to any policies or anything like that for student organizations. So I called our chapter chair, Nick, on the phone, and just to ensure that I was doing the right thing and that we had the right to be there. And so while I was on the phone, it wasn't even 5 minutes when the student union's director, assistant director, Sadie Hampton, came out and stood there while I was on the phone and told us that, and I quote, "You have to pack up this table within the next 3 minutes, and I'm going to stand here until you do so." It was like we were children that she was talking to, and we were confused. We weren't doing anything wrong. We were advocating for free speech, and we're being friendly and polite to everyone. And so I was like, okay, Nick, I was still on the phone with him. Do you want to talk to the assistant director, because I want to make sure I'm handling this correctly. So they spoke for a couple minutes, and she was saying the same thing, but I don't have a reservation, so we have to leave. And so we packed up our stuff, and we're like, okay, it's only two of us out here. It's not really worth the fight right now, because like I said, we didn't want to be ignorant to anything, and we wanted to make sure we were doing everything by the books. So we made a game plan to review the policies later at our chapter meeting that night. But the craziest thing about all of this was that after we packed up, I called previous Vice Chair Avery, and I told her a little bit what was going on, and she said, I'll be right there. So when she came, I was like, okay, there are 3 tables set up right around where we were set up, and they had not been approached. So I was like, okay, maybe they have a reservation. Let's go up and talk to them and ask them. So we went up to the first table, Solitude Training. They did not have a reservation. And we went up to the table for Raiders for Christ. They did not have a reservation either. And then the last table we approached, the fraternity Sigma Chi, we approached them, and they were doing like a Pi Day event. And they said that, oh, we were in that spot right over there. And they pointed, and it was where we were located. But they had to move. They were asked to move by Sadie Hampton to a different location, and they made accommodations for them. So it just shows 2 blatant examples that we asked to move. They denied that request, but allowed the fraternity to move. And they let other people, which she could see from our tabling, and didn't approach them at all, even though they didn't have a reservation either. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is you guys are sitting there or not protesting, but, showcasing freedom of speech and the value of our First Amendment. And these people do not care about the First Amendment. They do not care anything about the First Amendment. And I think that's a perfect example of it. I mean, The fact that all of those people there did not have a reservation, all those tables. I mean, obviously they're showing favoritism. They're choosing a side. And of course, and this is an attack on conservative students across the country, not just at MTSU. We're seeing, tables being flipped over, kids being assaulted, teenagers and college students being assaulted by the liberal students there, and the faculty do absolutely nothing to stop it. And it's really sickening. It's very, very sad because, you kind of question where we're at as a society because you're a young college student. If they can do that to you, if they can do what they are doing to President Trump, that's why they're doing it to us, because they know they can do it to them. They can do it to us, right? And so, I would love for you just to talk about, what it's like, because obviously that's a significant example of what it's like being a conservative on a liberal college campus and even some Christian college campuses. It's not just, public community colleges that this happens at. But what are there any other experiences or even of your friends that, attend MTSU that have had similar situations or just being, attacked for being a conservative or silenced in the classroom? Have you experienced any other, situations kind of similar to that, just like more so in the classroom?
So I'm originally from Southern California, and that is one of the biggest reasons I chose to move out of state for college. And there's a lot of examples that even peers in high school that are experiencing for just saying their basic rights and freedoms that we have in this country. And it just is outstanding to me that, they can do that. And so on a college campus, I feel like as a conservative, we really have to limit what we say and how we say it. We kind of have to tiptoe around the fact that, oh, my professor can fail me because I didn't write about their liberal ideas that they're projecting onto us. I personally, being in the business school, I haven't really faced anything like that, but I do know individuals that
Yeah.
have failed their papers because they decided to write about the freedoms we have in this country or something as simple as that. And, I don't think it should be that way, obviously. And these liberal campuses think that they can just create an environment where only their ideas are accepted. And that's just not how the world works. And that's not how it should be. And I think that's why I joined Turning Point, to just get conservative on campus and get that movement going and project the message to everyone on campus.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot on my show, but I really do think that the Democrats and the leftists and even, college professors that are liberal, the reason why they're going directly to you guys as college students is because college students statistically are the most uneducated. They're the most vulnerable, the most gullible, of the obviously young people, of course, and kindergarten, but as a whole, college students tend to be the most uneducated. They're just kind of walking around like zombies. I hate to say it, that's just the truth. They're just, most of them are having their college paid for. They don't have a job. They really just haven't had, not that you haven't, I know you're very mature, but by and large, most college students, haven't, experienced the real world or, have to face hardship in their life. And so I think that's why, the Democrats and the woke mob is targeting college students. You'll see the Planned Parenthood. I know there's a Planned Parenthood chapter that just got restarted at MTSU. Have there ever been? Because I see like the Planned Parenthood, like little buses or like small clinics go to different college campuses. Have they had one of those at MTSU yet?
I am not sure if there's been a bus, but there was a meeting that a couple of our members were trying to attend. And when they got to the door of just their weekly meetings, they asked if their name was on a list. And if their name was not on the list, they could not be in there. So we don't know what's going on in there because we can't get in there to just sit down and listen to what they have to say, and our members are going in there with good intentions to just hear what they're talking about and not to protest or anything like that. And yeah, so I'm not sure what their motives are in there, and I would hate to see a bus show up, and that's where our chapter, I think, would really step in and protest that.
That's right. No, you have to. And I will say, too, I have the Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally here like 5 minutes from MTSU's campus. And after the rally, we had like 200 protesters. I know a lot of them came out from MTSU, like 600 attendees. But after that, MTSU wrote like this hit piece on me, like claiming at the time I was 15, claiming I was like homophobic. What else did they say? Transphobic, and I didn't care about them, which is funny because like we literally just had a rally saying kids shouldn't be cutting off their healthy breasts and genitals, which is the epitome of love and truth. Like, yeah, I love you. That's why I don't want to see you go down this path. What's hateful and what's a complete lie is again to lie to them and send them down this path of destruction. That's what's hateful. That's what's mean. And really that's bigotry, to send them down this path of destruction. And I'm excited to see more and more college students wake up. When I went there that day for the, what was it? It was like all the student like groups got together. Club day, I think it was. I cannot remember the name of
Club
the
Rush?
day. But what is it?
The Donor Deck represents a groundbreaking independent crowdfunding initiative driven by patriots like you to bring back our esteemed President Donald J. Trump to office. With unwavering passion, we pledge all profits from the sale to MAGA Inc. and Fight Like a Flint PAC. The exquisitely detailed challenge coin is a timeless collectible to be passed down to generations. It symbolizes your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. Get your Donor Deck now. Go to thepatriot.tv store and click on Donor Deck. Enjoy the magnificent artwork and scripture on each playing card, knowing our appreciation for your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. You'll get this keepsake collectible challenge coin acknowledging your support for Donald Trump's run back to the White House, and the Donor Deck of 52 exquisite playing cards, plus a beautiful display case to show your challenge coin. Go to thepatriot.tv store and get your Donor Deck now.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Like Club Rush?
Yes, I think that's what it was. Well, I went there, I talked to the Young Socialist of America group, and these students are really just blind. I'm going to play some of the clips after, you're a part of this episode, but I mean, it's just crazy to think, and really just the attack on freedom of speech as a whole. I know, I'm not sure if you know Paula Scanlon. She was the young girl that was on the same team as William Thomas, the male that posed as a woman. And the way that the university treated these young ladies, if you dare to speak up, if you speak out against Thomas playing on the team or swimming on the team, you will be silenced. You will regret it. You will lose opportunities. I mean, this is what they are doing to college students, conservative college students that have common sense across the country. So, I mean, from your perspective as a college student that is dealing with this firsthand, what do you see going forward? I mean, what do you think needs to happen to fix this? For those of us with common sense, we know that the FDA, the CDC, Big Pharma, the United States government, and the medical institution have been caught red-handed, and it is time that we the people say enough. The past 5 years have been rough, and it has us all wondering who to trust in, who to believe in, whether it be medically or just for our overall health. Well, in a world where the globalists and the big pharma are telling us that eating bugs and fake meat are good for us, I am proud to support Root, a company that is embracing holistic healing. Root has a long-standing history of dominating the realm of holistic alternative medicine, ushering in a new age of wellness that you and I can trust. It's time that we come together to reject this woke nonsense being pushed by big pharma and support a great company like Root. Choose empowerment, choose holistic healing, choose root, and choose the Hannah Faulkner Show. God bless.
And if their name was not on the list, they could not be in there. So we don't know what's going on in there because we can't get in there to just sit down and listen to what they have to say, and our members are going in there with good intentions to just hear what they're talking about and not to protest or anything like that. And so I'm not sure what their motives are in there, and I would hate to see a bus show up, and that's where our chapter, I think, would really step in and protest that.
That's right. No, I mean, you have to. And I will say, too, I had the Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally here, like 5 minutes from MTSU's campus. And after the rally, we had like 200 protesters. I know a lot of them came out from MTSU, like 600 attendees. But after that, MTSU wrote like this huge, this hit piece on me, like claiming at the time I was 15, claiming I was like homophobic. What else do they say? Transphobic, and I didn't care about them, which is funny because like we literally just had a rally saying kids shouldn't be cutting off their healthy breasts and genitals, which is the epitome of love and truth. Like, yeah, I love you. That's why I don't want to see you go down this path. What's hateful and what's a complete lie is again to lie to them and send them down this path of destruction. That's what's hateful. That's what's mean. And really that's bigotry, to send them down this path of destruction. And I'm excited to see more and more college students wake up. When I went there that day for the, what was it? It was like all the student like groups got together. Club day, I think it was. I cannot remember the name of
Club
the
Rush?
day. But what is it?
Like Club Rush?
Yes, I think that's what it was. Well, I went there, I talked to the Young Socialist of America group, and these students are really just blind. I'm going to play some of the clips after, you're a part of this episode, but I mean, it's just crazy to think, and really just the attack on freedom of speech as a whole. I know, I'm not sure if you know Paula Scanlon. She was the young girl that was on the same team as William Thomas, the male that posed as a woman. And the way that the university treated these young ladies, if you dare to speak up, if you speak out against Thomas playing on the team or swimming on the team, you will be silenced. You will regret it. You will lose opportunities. I mean, this is what they are doing to college students, conservative college students that have common sense across the country. So, I mean, from your perspective as a college student that is dealing with this firsthand, what do you see going forward? I mean, what do you think needs to happen to fix this?
That's a good question. I think, our country is just really destroyed at this point, and there's a lot that needs to happen to really reform it and make it a very welcoming place. And a big thing for college campuses specifically, I think, would be just having chapters such as Turning Point and getting out there and having activism events and getting out there and tabling every week and bringing attention that we have these freedoms in America, and that what they're pushing is not okay, and it's not right, and it's taking advantage of all these young students, of their time and their money, and putting it towards gender studies that will get them nowhere in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's the feminist movement and everything in college, and these liberal women. It makes me sad to see that, it's hard to connect with other female college students because they're just so stuck in this like liberal mindset. And to combat that, it's just joining organizations such as Turning Point and getting out there.
That's right. No, I joined Turning Point when I was 13. I am a big fan of Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, and the mission. I mean, they have really shifted culture. It's like the turning point, and I 100% agree. Like, we are at a turning point in history where people are finally starting to wake up. Young people are waking up. More. I think there's over 3,000 Turning Point USA chapters right now, which is absolutely incredible. And just seeing more people get involved and take a stand on their freedoms. But I mean, you mentioned feminism, and I talk about this a lot on my show and how women are trending more liberal than ever. Now, I don't know if you're a Trump supporter. I kind of sense that you're a Trump supporter. I don't know if you would be willing to share this, but as a conservative woman, you mentioned how it's so hard to have a conversation with women in general and liberal women especially that are your age, because they're just so blinded. And you're like, you go to these women's the women's march in Washington D.C., and you cannot have a single conversation without them screaming in your face. I mean, it's crazy. But I mean, what is your take on, just as a conservative woman? I mean, what is your message to the liberal women out there, that, that feminism has lied? I don't know if you have just like thoughts on that. Because and too, are you a Trump supporter? Why are you supporting Trump? If you are.
Yeah, so I am a Trump supporter. Back in 2020, I was in high school. I wasn't really into politics that much. And, my parents started to talk about politics a little bit more, and they got more involved as Trump started campaigning. And that really woke my family up to really what was going on. And to be a Trump supporter for me is to just get our country back, make America great again, like save America, because right now with the Biden administration is destroying the economy, destroying our country, and implementing so many things that are hurting us, and the border crisis and everything it's truly sickening. And
Yep.
I support Trump in that way, just to save America and get our rights and our freedom back, and make our country strong and not weak. But yeah, and a message to liberal women, I would say let's talk, because most of them, they just don't want to talk. So if they gave us a few minutes of their time to just have a nice conversation about, what's going on not only college campuses, but a country and worldwide, just to have that simple conversation of what I think versus what you think, and, what makes sense, what doesn't, and just ask simple questions. And that I would, just simply talk, because they don't want to do it.
That's right. No, and that's why, I have Culture of 1776, where we have a bunch of merch. And I think, wearing these conversation starters, these conversation pieces, we've got feminine, not feminist, masculine, or bring back masculine men. We've got my pronouns are USA. I think we've got one that says no beta boys, which is my favorite one, because I think we have way too many beta boys running around. But no, just I've had middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students reach out and say, I wore this shirt to my class today and like got so many questions, and people were just wondering, like, what does it even mean to be feminine, not feminist? What does it mean to not like beta boys? So I mean, I think these are the things that we need to do. Is having conversation is the most important thing. That's what stirs change in our country, is conversation and asking questions. I don't think we've asked enough questions. I think that's the reason why we're here, is because we have not asked, why is this happening? What does this bill mean? What is this going to mean going forward? But I mean, you gave your message to liberal women, which, I think my question to you, if I were a liberal woman having a conversation with you, at least from what I've seen, I would ask you the question of, why are you a conservative woman? And so would you be willing to answer that? Like, why are you a conservative woman? In a world where women are trending more liberal, why have you chosen to be a conservative?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say just the culture of being a liberal woman is not how you create a successful family unit. That's the main goal, is to tear that apart. And I've watched some of your things. I know you've talked a lot about that. And I'm passionate about that as well. And it starts at the roots, the colleges where you start your liberal ideas, and you hate men, you hate the idea of having a family, and a family's not for everyone, but the idea of hating men, and that we don't need men, we're independent.
Yep.
That's very hurtful to the family unit, and I'm very religious, and I would say God made us a certain way, and He made us for a reason. A man and a woman have roles that they need to play, and that's how you create a successful family unit. So if I were to have that conversation of why I'm a conservative woman, I would say because I believe in the right to a traditional family, and to protect our children, and to be a successful mother, a mother that can take care of her children and protect her from all the crazy indoctrination happening, and to just not be so hateful and have conversations and be open-minded.
That's right. That's right. Well, and one last thing. I mean, because like you said, it's very few and far between to come across more and more conservatives on college campus. What is your message to conservatives on college campuses that kind of feel alone? They feel like there's no other, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, getting involved, starting a Turning Point chapter. That's one way. But what is your message, your overall message, just to conservatives on college campuses?
I would say just stand your ground. That's the most important thing. And, moving forward, if we're asked the same thing in that same situation to move our table, next time we're going to say no, that's not allowed. And I think that's just the main thing with this conservative movement and the Turning Point movement is just stand up for yourself, know what's right and wrong, know the rules, know the policies, know laws, get involved, and just don't follow the liberal ideas.
That's right. Well, I mean, I actually had Senator Jack Johnson on. He said, one of my biggest encouragements to Tennesseans and just citizens of America in general is knowing your rights, knowing the laws, knowing the rights that you have. Because, when you're in a doctor's office and they say you have to take this vaccine, but the law says they can't force you to take the vaccine, you understand that, well, wait a second. The law says that you cannot force me to take a vaccine. And actually, if you force me to take this vaccine, you can get your license taken away from you. And, similar things with MTSU. Now you guys know your rights. Now you know that what they did was wrong. They did, they were suppressing your freedom of speech and not, and showing favoritism to those other students that were there. So, I mean, I think that's so important. Yeah, understanding your rights, knowing, our Constitution and understanding, what's wrong, what's right, and just understanding common sense. I mean, these issues we're fighting are just common sense, right? I can't believe we're here. I say that all the time on my show, but we've got to keep fighting. We've got to get in the ring because it's not over yet, and it's just getting started, really. But Carley, I appreciate you coming on the show. I don't know if you have any last thoughts, but where can my listeners go and support you, follow you, or just follow your chapter?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great. It's been a pleasure, and you're such a smart female conservative woman, and I really appreciate what you're doing. But yeah, you can follow our chapter, Turning Point USA _MTSU, or my personal channel is Carley.Ranta on Instagram. And that's where we can keep our conservative movement going and keep the strong female conservative group active and ready to get America back.
That's right. Well, Carley, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in with us today. Carley, it was so great to have her on the show, just sharing her story on how conservative college students across the country are being silenced and censored for their conservative values and conservative beliefs. She gave her message to women especially who have believed the lie of liberalism. And she also gave her message just to conservative college students across the country to get involved, take a stand, and just be bold on what you believe in. Before we close this out today, make sure you guys continue watching as I went to MTSU, the same university where Turning Point USA students and Carley was silenced. But I went there and I had face-to-face conversations with the woke students at this college campus. Check this out. What's up, freedom fighters? We're here at Middle Tennessee State University, one of the most woke colleges in the state of Tennessee, and we're here to ask these college students a few questions, so come along.
Don't let them win. Patriot TV is committed to delivering the truth. America's new network for patriots is growing fast, and we'd love you to join us as a member of Patriot TV. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to deliver unbiased reporting, thought-provoking discussions, and insights you won't find anywhere else. From in-depth interviews to behind-the-scenes footage, Patriot TV brings you closer to the voices shaping our nation's future. Whether it's political developments, cultural shifts, or global affairs, Patriot TV keeps you informed and empowered. As a member of Patriot TV, you'll get perks like personal invitations to exclusive Patriot TV events, where you can gather and network with like-minded Americans. We'll also host online events throughout the year with General Flynn, who's committed to host live Q&A webinars where callers like you can ask him questions and get real answers. Access to these events will be members only, so go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. We have a great membership option starting at just $9.99 a month, or save with our annual membership for only $99, or take advantage of the best value, the 2-year membership for just $159. Go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. Do your part to make sure the truth gets out to all patriots and help ensure future programming. Become a member today. Just go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member, join today.
I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee. It's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
Single candidate running for president that actually has anything that would advocate for what we're looking for. Particularly because our main issue right now, as with most people that have a heart, have humanity at all, is about Palestine. And right now there's not any sort of candidate that I would say has a chance in winning that actually cares about Palestine. Of course there are. There's Cornel West, Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, kind of, but at the current stance, the options we have are all the Democratic primaries are going to push Joe Biden to be the president, and he doesn't give a fuck about Palestine, sorry, I didn't mean to swear. And then we have all the Republicans, which are also more in the sense of following the Zionist agenda kind of thing, So I would say probably not one particularly, except maybe Claudia de la Cruz. He's the candidate for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Although, again, not really has a chance of winning.
So can I ask you one question? What are your thoughts on universal basic income?
Universal basic income? Well, I think it's an interesting idea. I think the problem currently is we to have an idea of like being able to do like that, making sure everyone has the needs they need, we have to have more infrastructure. But I would definitely say it's something that the government should be looking towards, right? Like as a socialist group, we feel that the government should be designed for the people and actually be able to help the people, not just, be able to like protect the markets or whatever, you know what I mean? So I would say a UBI is an idea that I think would be great, although I don't think all the current plans for a UBI that have been put forth are at all really possible.
Can you talk a little bit about Trump and why you're against Trump and how you're seeing the similarities between Javier Milei and Trump, and what are your thoughts on his statement saying he wants to be a dictator?
So one thing for sure, when I compare Javier Milei and Trump, I say that because I find them both to be absurd individuals. I don't think their political platforms are that similar. I mean, in some way they are. They're both kind of advocating for bourgeois interest or whatever. But I think the dictator thing that Trump said, honestly, I think that was him just trying to like appeal to his base, be like, we're gonna, he said a couple weeks ago, he was like, when I'm in office, we're gonna get rid of all the Marxists, we're gonna kick them all out of the country, whatever. I think he's just trying to rile people up. I think the dictator comment was, I don't think he even really knew what he meant by that, to be honest with you, Although I think he's an interesting individual, and I don't consider any of his policies to be like helpful for the working class or helpful for really anybody except for like the rich, the bourgeois, I don't know. I expect that kind of language to be probably ramped up a lot in the next couple of months. But I don't know. In terms of what he actually said, I don't know. He was just being a goofy guy,
So what are some of his policies that you're like are a hard no for you? So whether that's abortion, that's the transgender issue, whatever it may be, what are some of his policies that are just completely against what you believe in and it's a hard no for you?
Well, I would definitely say mainly those two that you just mentioned are pretty big ones, right? He's talked a lot about past couple days. He's big on his Truth Social, talking about how he could have killed Roe if he wanted to, but he didn't, and then whatever, I don't know. I think the conservative platform right now is really being kind of structured to have what Trump wants to be, like you said, like with the dictator thing, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with this initiative called Project 2025. It's being initiated by the Heritage Foundation, and they're talking about trying to get a way for a conservative executive, a conservative president, to be able to utilize a governmental theory called the unitary executive theory. It's essentially like his idea, or their idea of being able to push full conservative agenda to like bypass Congress, bypass the Supreme Court, and just be able to like utilize the presidential position in the best way they can. And so in the way they're doing that is what those things you talked about, right? They're going to start attacking transgender policies, whether those be even the most marginal ones that are just like slightly protecting trans people. They're going to start attacking, I don't remember if it was him or DeSantis the other day that mentioned something about a abortion ban, a national abortion ban. I think it was Trump. I'm not entirely sure. But like those are things that are all in flux right now. And of course, the last couple, not that necessarily it's been that effective, the last couple of years in the Biden administration, there have been small benefits for the working class and economic policy, all things I imagine Trump would be interested in pulling back, doing even the same level of tax cuts he did before. And again, as well, I think one big thing that I'm worried about with Trump right now, as I am worried with Biden, is he was pretty big in the Abraham Accords being passed, and that being like the situation between Israel and Palestine or whatever. I can only imagine, considering how bad Biden has been in terms of being able to solve the issue or being able to really just aid it being worse, I can only imagine how much worse it would be with Trump being in office.
Yeah, so you mentioned Israel, and Trump was the one that relocated the Israeli embassy back to Jerusalem.
True.
What are your thoughts on that? I want to get back to the transgender issue because that's a big one right now, and especially for my generation. But what are your thoughts on him relocating the Israeli embassy in Jerusalem?
Well, I think that was entirely an act of aggression. I think his whole point there was he's trying to, obviously, the conservative agenda is more focused on supporting Israel and defending the area and the region because of imperialist interest. And I think his entire point there was to, show overt support in a way that was going to make everybody mad, controversial, disruptor, whatever, the things he loves to say. But
people tell me that I'm not qualified to talk about any of these issues or even discuss them with people. When do you think is the age where or what can you do? What should you be able to do when you're like, okay, they're qualified to talk about this issue?
So I think, I should be clear. I do think it's great that if you're 16 years old and you're advocating for your political beliefs, that's great. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is he's a keynote speaker, right? He's paid to talk about what he's talking about. You and I are not paid to talk about I'm sure as hell not paid to talk about any of this stuff. I can guarantee you that. And so my point is that his entire career now is based off him offering political commentation and being paid for that, being paid to do a keynote speaker at an event here, talk about self-defense here, talk about, whatever. He's been on Fox News to talk about a bunch of random things, and he's paid for every minute he does that. And I think that's where the issue lies there. Political activists are at any age, whatever, are always important and should be advocating for what they believe in. I'm not saying that you don't have to have a degree to talk about what you believe in. I just think when it comes to the point where you're being paid, you're a keynote speaker, whatever, it's that's when I question whether it's actual advocacy or if it's grifting,
Well, I'm pretty sure that the founder of Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, he doesn't have any degrees. He didn't go to college. So would you consider him probably not qualified to talk about these issues since he doesn't really have a foundation in what he's talking about?
I would say, I'm glad you brought that up because I think Charlie Kirk is not qualified to talk about any of the things he talks about. I think he's an interesting individual for sure. Not to mention a lot of his activities have been very questionable, right? During the middle of COVID, he had what was her name, Dr. Teresa, whatever her name was. She was a pretty big social media advocate, against the vaccine and things like that. She went on his show and she was like, "Did you know the mRNA spells out Jehovah or whatever?" And then when you get it was Yahweh. It was Yahweh is what it was. And when you get the vaccine, it cuts Yahweh out of your DNA, whatever. It's removing God from you. Crazy stuff, right? Not to mention, there's a lot of question over whether or not Turning Point possibly had funded multiple, I believe the number was 80 buses that were sent to the January 6th insurrection. So, I think Charlie Kirk's an interesting individual, and I would agree he's definitely not qualified to talk on all manner of things that he talks about.
Okay. Is it okay if I ask you? I'm sorry, we're having a good conversation. This is probably the best conversation I've had so far today. But you mentioned J6, and that is a big talking point among conservatives, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, even 3 years later. So do you have what's your thoughts on January 6th? Because, conservatives, let's say conservatives, but Republicans even are calling it an insurrection too. We have some that are seeing that it was an insurrection and some that are calling it that it wasn't an insurrection, that it was a setup. So what's your response to the January 6th committee and what happened on January 6th?
Well, I definitely don't. I don't really subscribe to the idea that it was a setup, that it was some psyop, that it was or like it was Antifa, whatever. That makes no sense. I don't think Antifa would be particularly excited about making sure Joe Biden won the election. And also, not to mention, I do struggle calling it an insurrection. I think it was intended to be, but I think it's funny because regardless of what had happened that day, what was going on was a procedural thing, right? It wasn't going to change. If they went in there and they had did what they were going to do, they pulled Mike Pence out of there, did whatever they were going to do, wouldn't have changed anything, right? I think it's interesting, but I think the reality of what happened was there were people who knew the power they had to mobilize people, and those people largely being in the Trump administration. Some of them weren't. Of course, there's whistleblowers, whatever. And whether or not they were involved and they're just trying to find their way out, or whether they weren't involved, whatever, I don't know. But, sit there, and because obviously there are situations where a child is trans, a child is gay, and their parent is fully against that, and that's a problem there, right? Because then they're going to be missing that important care they need for their mental health. And so there are some states trying to loop around that. But I think my main point there, it really is that the decision is being made with a doctor's expertise, right? It's not just a kid doing what he wants to do. There's medical professionals that are involved there with decision making. It is not a short, impulsive process. It takes a long time, takes a lot of work. And if you've ever met someone that's transitioned, it is a long, painstaking process.
Painstaking?
I wouldn't say painstaking. Okay, actually, I'm going to go and stop right now because I think I need to ask who you guys are with.
I'm individual. I'm 16.
You're independent.
I'm just getting people's opinions on things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So why are you here today?
Why am I here today? Mm-hmm. Just to get people's thoughts. I actually came here last year to get people's opinions and thoughts on things. Just because I think it's interesting. I'm part of Gen Z. I'm the lower level of Gen Z. Like I said, I'm 16. I'm a high school student. So I'm just trying to get to see, what people are thinking, because as a high school student, most of my friends are more socialist. Most of my friends are more left-leaning.
Interesting.
And so,
I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I did want to ask, because you mentioned Marxism, and I feel like that's controversial. A controversial topic among conservatives and even liberals is they don't even want to identify with being a Marxist or anti-Marxism. So why don't you would you be willing to talk a little bit about that, on your stance on Marxism and Karl Marx as a whole?
Well, so liberals not being a fan of Marxism is that's inherent to the ideology, right? Yeah. Marxism is supposed to be a response to liberalism, right? So we had feudalism, and then the response to that was we're gonna bring about a more open market system where workers can work their way to the top, meritocracy, whatever. That's the whole idea of liberalism, and Marxism is supposed to be the response to that. So that makes sense. I think that makes sense. And when we're talking about liberalism, there we're not just talking about an American liberal. We're talking about liberalism, the ideology, which includes conservatives and liberals. So in terms of Marx and Marx being controversial, that largely makes sense, right? Marx is a radical. Marx understands that Marx understood that at the time liberalism had entrenched itself in the political scene and was important to almost all aspects of society. It was almost every country was at least engaging capitalism in some way, and he saw and wrote about how entrenched that was and how exploitative it was, and so we, as a socialist group, absolutely would consider that to be correct. We think bourgeois forces control all forms of capital, all means of production, and that being an issue. We think us, working class people, workers, should be able to have more control over means of production, be able to have more democratic access to the economy, and actually we really shouldn't be focusing on, I think, in the large aspect, capital being the focus of our economy is the problem, when it should be people should be the focus of our economy, right? We should be building our economy to be able to work for people and not being able to work for the production of capital, preservation of capital, and the preservation of profit, which is what it's been for almost 200 years now, So.
Yeah, I actually just want to say real quick, off camera, I am very impressed. A lot of people, regardless of what side I'm on, whatever, I'm very impressed because left, right, middle, whatever, I have not heard someone been able to explain what they believe in on either side. So I'm very impressed. I just want to commend you for that, for being able to do your own research. I think we need more of that. So, but I have two more questions. Number one, obviously the only conservative group here, or I think it's the only conservative group, I don't know. The only conservative group here is Turning Point. What is your response to Turning Point USA being here, and just their mission as a whole? What's your thoughts on that?
So Turning Point obviously as does every political group, has a right to organize on campus, and I respect that for sure. I think Turning Point nationally is kind of an interesting organization. They're not necessarily a Republican organization, right? They're more of a libertarian, conservative organization. I find a lot of their messaging to be quite concerning, particularly, this organization, this specific one on campus, a lot of their stuff is around, like we talked about earlier, like trans issues, right? They got their signs where they're like, there's only 2 genders, whatever. And I think also there's a large push in Turning Point across the nation, but particularly in Tennessee as well, to focus on things like that, right? To focus on, what I guess you could call culture war issues, right? Instead of actually advocating for things in their community, which I find to be kind of interesting, you know what I mean? Like, for example, this Turning Point, ETS used TPUSA and a bunch of other Tennessee's, their main things they do are like, they have like debate nights, right? They have like speakers come and talk or whatever. But I think if you're a political organization, regardless of where you're on the spectrum of politics, your goal should not be to sit around and talk about what you think. It should be to advocate and do things in the community. And that's what our main focus has been this past couple of semesters, is actually doing things, right? That's why we're out here. We have a petition here for a ceasefire resolution to Nashville City Council. We're working on doing that for the Student Government Association. We're going to do that for Murfreesboro. We're here advocating for what we believe in. And I think there's a lot more to be said about all political organizations that need to actually advocate instead of just, talking whatever. I also think, I would like to also mention specifically that I'm pretty concerned with ETSU's TPUSA right now. I think the insurrection itself, I do consider it to be an insurrection, even though I think it was a misguided one and kind of a dumb one. I think regardless, it was an awful day for American politics for sure. It made us all look really stupid. And in fact, it had its potential to affect other countries. Like Brazil had a situation right after that was almost the exact same thing. But I think I would call it insurrection. I think it was absolutely a bunch of bad actors, and it was a crime, whatever. But I will say this, and I think this is something that a lot of leftists are a little hesitant to say. If the situation was true, right? If the election had been stolen, right? There was some big conspiracy, Dominion voter machines, whatever, you know what I mean? If the election had been stolen, it wouldn't be crazy that American people would, revolt against their government. The problem there is it wasn't. It was an entire conspiracy, a lie to mobilize to make Trump look, or to get people riled up behind Trump. And it still has people riled up behind him now. And like you said, there's people claiming, it was a setup, it was the FBI was involved, whatever. And I have no doubt the FBI knew it was happening, but I don't think that they were involved in planning it. I don't think that makes any sense, because I think, I don't know, I think it's just it's an interesting situation, and I think it's kind of a hard thing to talk about. But I think, regardless, I think we should call it insurrection. We should definitely assert that the election was not stolen, and that the whole situation was just goofy,
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you believe that what they did was okay if the election was actually stolen and we had evidence that it was stolen?
I think working class people have a right to resist in any situation, right? I think people are, when they are actually met with oppression, they're actually met with bureaucratic oppression, they have a right to resist. I'm a Marxist, right? Marx is a revolutionary thinker. He called for the working class to revolt against their bourgeois masters. I agree with that. My point is, it wasn't an actual legitimate claim. I don't think they were furthering some sort of revolutionary cause, although if you watch the videos from it, they all said that, right? There was that lady from Knoxville, actually, she was crying. She was like, it's a revolution, we're storming the Capitol, whatever, But I don't think it was a revolutionary cause. And but my point is that, for example, if that were happening where the election were stolen and like it was like, like it is in Guatemala right now. There's a current coup going on in Guatemala because the guy who just lost the election is refusing to leave. If that was actually happening, right? Like the government was actually being stolen and it was a legitimate situation where there was actual question to whether or not there was legitimacy to the election, I think people have a right to resist when they're being oppressed. Absolutely.
All right. Can I ask you one more thing?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the United States Constitution, and do you think that any of it should be revised? What are your thoughts really just the Bill of Rights, I think, is what we should focus on.
Bill of Rights. Interesting. I'm a political science major, so this is a question that comes up a lot in classes and stuff. I think at the current juncture, the Constitution has flaws in the way it was written, but I think the way it operates is fine in a way that we can, use it to our advantage. But I think at the main point, I don't think it's necessarily like something that needs to be like abolished, right? Like I'm not one to say that we should like whatever. I don't think a new constitutional convention is a bad idea, and it's been discussed, right? Gavin Newsom in California discussed possibly putting forth the idea of a constitutional convention. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think we should always be looking to revise a constitution. For example, Cuba. Cuba is a country that regularly revises its constitution, and they recently revised it to be able to add same-sex marriage into their constitution, ratified it there. You know what I mean? And that's something that's great. But in terms of like how it operates now, I think for the most part it works well, right? We have free speech, whatever, we have a right to organize, and I think that's always important. So I don't necessarily think I'm not anti-constitution. I don't think most people are either. So.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time.
The Donor Deck represents a groundbreaking independent crowdfunding initiative driven by patriots like you to bring back our esteemed President Donald J. Trump to office. With unwavering passion, we pledge all profits from the sale to MAGA Inc. and Fight Like a Flynn PAC. The exquisitely detailed challenge coin is a timeless collectible to be passed down to generations. It symbolizes your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. Get your Donor Deck now. Go to thepatriot.tv store and click on Donor Deck. Enjoy the magnificent artwork and scripture on each playing card, knowing our appreciation for your continuous dedication to assisting President Trump in his quest to rejuvenate America to its former greatness. You'll get this keepsake collectible challenge coin acknowledging your support for Donald Trump's run back to the White House, and the Donor Deck of 52 exquisite playing cards, plus a beautiful display case to show your challenge coin. Go to thepatriot.tv store and get your Donor Deck now. Have a new product or idea? Whether it's already in production or just a concept. Whether you're an individual, a small business, or a medium-sized company, our upcoming show on Patriot TV is here to showcase it to millions and launch it in a big way. We're looking for businesses like yours to feature your product on our new show and pitch it to over 6 million followers, eager to support like-minded businesses. Whether it's a single product or a new product line, we have a platform to skyrocket sales. With powerful Patriot TV ads, targeted direct mail, and the influence of our dynamic show hosts, your product will get the attention it deserves. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Email us now at advertise@patriot.tv to secure your spot and watch your sales take off.